There is a document called The Revolution in Military Affairs and Conflict Short of War, written by Stephen Metz and James Kivett, and it is from the U.S. Army War College, part of the Strategic Studies Institute, dated 1994. And the interesting thing about this is that it refers to a device that will be implanted under the skin, to which it cannot be removed, and it will be referred to as this IPLD, Individual Position Locator Device. In fact, it states that every American could receive an IPLD permanently implanted under the skin with automatic remote activation.
The problem with RFID identification, although you might be able to justify it, say, oh, this way we're going to be able to identify our animals, we're going to be able to identify our pets, we're even going to be able to identify our children if they're kidnapped. The difficulty is, of course, it gives the government the ability to track every individual in America 24 hours a day.
The implantable chip is something that's only just now in the past few years been discussed openly. When it first came, when the discussion first started about 10 or 15 years ago, anybody that brought it up was looked at as some sort of a conspiracy nut. And now it's being accepted as common knowledge. They're talking about putting chips in our products. They're talking now about putting chips in people so that they can have their medical records and their bank records readily accessible. And that's how it's being sold. But what they're not focusing in on is the possibility that this could be used to control people. And I don't think that it's a very far leap to realize that this is exactly what the long-term goal is to be able to keep track of people, invade your privacy, and control you.
We've been told that special forces in all of the military branches are now being chipped. And of course, the reason being that if they're a POW, they'll be easier to find. And that's a reason that is a good reason. And that's the problem, because utilizing all this technology has so many benefits to it, to the manufacturer, to use an RFID chip in all of their items, to track them, to be able to track people on the roads, to be able to track their speed. But the obverse has to be looked at, which is we lose our civil rights, we lose our freedom.
There have always been those who wanted to control others. There have always been those who believed that they were born to rule and the others were born to serve. And today there are people in key positions in our government who believe in an authoritarian society. And they're working to take away our freedom, to centralize all power in Washington, D.C., and to create a horror for the future.
To understand the true motives behind some of this legislation and some of these contingency plans and some of these regulations, you only have to read George Orwell's book, 1984. And you find that back in 1948, when this was written, they foresaw a future society where everyone was just a cog in the machine and everyone was labeled, numbered, identified, and this was before the age of the computer. So they've been working at this for some time, but now it's coming to fruition thanks to digitization and computerization.
Let's think outside the cage for a second. If we are indeed moving towards an Orwellian 1984 scenario, and if information is being controlled and withheld and manipulated and massaged to direct the people towards a certain agenda, doesn't common sense also tell us that for those that refuse to fit into the mold, that continually think outside of the cage, those people are going to have to be somehow discredited. They're going to have to be ridiculed. They're going to have to be demonized and persecuted.
U.S. government is increasingly putting money toward military operations, referred to as military operations other than war. These are often seen as non-lethal weapons. DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has a number of weapons that they call soft kill weapons. The weapons sort of where you wish you were dead, you just weren't killed when they were used, because they can be very painful, they can be very damaging. Acoustic weapons that can destroy the hearing of people. Lasers that destroy sight. Microwave weapons. Active denial weapons, as they're called. one that is now being utilized in Iraq called Project Sheriff. These weapons are devastating. They can cause intense burning. I mean, real intense burning, up to 120, 130 degrees, in which an individual feels as though they're about to die, and unless the laser or the microwave is removed from them, there is no relief from the pain. What frightens me is that these weapons are used not for a war zone, but for a community, a city, a riot control situation.